And all the ladies say, and all the ladies say, I think I like that. Welcome, Lord Finesse, to Champagne and Conversations. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
Cheers to you.
Yeah, I wish I knew you was gonna have champagne. I'd have pulled me out a bottle or something, you know?
Okay, so I'm glad you started that off because that was going to be my first question to you is, do you drink champagne?
Well, champagne once in a while.
Okay, all
I'm
right.
more like a hard liquor type dude.
But on occasion you do have champagne.
Of course, yeah.
That's great. That was definitely going to be one of my questions. So I'm glad you said that. We'll make sure we take care of you on that part. So cheers to you on that.
Nice. Cheers.
So with that being said, guys, Lord Finesse, I am so excited. One thing I will say is you all see that we are here on time today. I do appreciate his attention to detail, if you will, and being able to join us and have this amazing conversation. So I'm so excited about having to talk to you about just today what we have been going through and obviously the things that you've been doing, which have been awesome. And I want to give those that are listening, we thank you for listening today, the opportunity to kind of just dial in and learn a little bit more about Lord Finesse. Obviously, we know from the hip hop era, all of the amazing things that you've done, or at least most of them, because it seems as if every time I go into research, it's more and more pops up. But yes, we'll get to as much as we can in that. And just kind of touching back for a moment, you stating that you love champagne, I want you to share with us your thought process when you were growing up. I know you spoke about obviously in New York and, you know, growing up with your grandmother and that, but just your vision, your thoughts, your dreams when you were a young person.
Well, I can't even begin to, my dreams and visions was different, right? Okay. I went to school, I wanted to be an electrical engineer. My dreams had nothing to do with music at all. Okay. Electrical engineer, good in math. I could have been an accountant. That was my goal. And I think when I went to Park West, you know, I went to Park West High School and the electrical engineering course was no longer there. I was lost after that. Rapping was more like a hobby, something I do in my spare time. It was something we did that was fun. It was like playing the game when I grew up in the projects. It was a couple of us that we would just sit around and siphon, put our little raps together, and that was that. I think as I got older and started being around hip hop and experiencing hip hop, I started taking the raps a little bit more serious. Okay. Wasn't too sure that it was something I definitely wanted to do, but it was something that was there. DJing was really number one. I wanted to be a DJ all the time. Never wanted to even be a rapper. I wanted to be a DJ. Okay. DJs had the superpower. You know, DJs was the ones that told you if the rapper could rap that night. That's the power they had in my era. All right. But when they no longer had the course in Park West, I found myself in the lunchroom and the gyms rhyming most of the time because it gathered attention. It was fun, like putting on a little show, and I was kind of good at it at that point. Right. And at one point, I wanted to drop out of high school because I always thought that high school, for us coming from the projects, high school didn't really speak to us because everything about high school was always about getting good grades and getting a job. Never had no entrepreneurial classes. They never told you can be an owner. It's always get good grades. Maybe you go to college, get a master's degree, get a good job. That was like the big dream back then. I was like, Shit, I barely passed high school. Now you gonna tell me to go to college and get a loan to do it?
Sure.
And nah, I don't know. So my grandmother told me if I passed, got my diploma, passed and got out of high school, I could be anything I wanted. And she would back me on anything I wanted to do. So by the time I was getting ready to graduate, I was deep into rap. Actually, I was fucking up in Park West and I kind of transferred to the high school closer to home, which was Morris High School, which was a high school. I think if my grandmother originally let me go there, I think I would have finished on time. But she sent me to Park West. I had all this freedom. I was acting a fool. I ain't never know they let you go out for lunch and come back in. That was like new. You know, when I
Did you
was in
come
school,
back?
you was most of the times, nah. When
No.
I got out, I was
It's like,
done. I was done at
right.
1:30,
Okay.
2 o'clock. Classes was over for me.
Okay. Okay.
But she made me promise to her that I would finish. And I did that promise. But you know, I was maybe a grade or two behind because I was messing up in the earlier years of high school. But I did get my diploma, and during
Congratulations.
summer school of 1989, I was actually going from summer school to the recording studio to record Funky Technician, the first album.
Oh, now I was going to ask you, now, did you happen to go to high school with any of your peers? Not just necessarily from your group, but did you go with anyone else that you knew from your era?
Uh, wow, that's a good question. Park West had a couple of artists, had Eminem, the beatbox,
Okay.
had Rich Nice,
Mm-hmm.
currently, you know, that be on with Sway.
Yep.
Rich Nice was there.
The DJ.
King's son brother, MF Grimm was in Park West. And I think I made it to Park West maybe a year or so after Kane. He told me he was in
Okay.
Park West and got kicked out.
Okay.
So I probably came in maybe a year after Kane,
Mm-hmm.
which would have been, I'd have been I think I'd have, man, I told Kane I wouldn't even understood if he was in my high school, what life would have been like. Cause I think with rap, I was always challenging myself to the competition that was out there. So I think,
Which was in 1989, you said you graduated from high school. So at that time, who were you considering competition? Because your rap style was different
well,
than probably most
it
of that.
wasn't competition as people making records. I wanted to make records at some point, but the competition in high school. So whoever was nice in high school, you want to be the best.
Right.
I want to be the best, period. It wasn't just in high school.
Okay.
It was wherever I felt it was good competition, that's where I was going.
And you use that as your source of motivation?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course. Because that lets you know it's easy to be good in your neighborhood. Oh, he's the best in the neighborhood. But you don't know if that's actually true or if that's your friends putting a battery in your back. But to go to another neighborhood and be good in that neighborhood, to go to different neighborhoods and beat other artists in different neighborhoods, it's like you planting your flags, and it's like invading different territories, being the king of that neighborhood too.
And what we know now is called expanding your brand. So you were doing that at a young age. Yes.
I was definitely doing that at a young age. So even before I made records, the buzz of me was there. Especially after the New Music Seminar in 1989, the buzz was there. It's this new kid coming.
Yes. And now, tough. Do you think that your grandmother gave you that initial, as you said, battery in your back to just want to have whatever it was, however it was, or does that something that you just had that internal drive?
I think her approving of what I was doing made it easier.
Okay.
I'm not saying I wouldn't have done it anyway, but
Mm-hmm.
to get the approval, my grandmother was like the heart and soul of me. She
Nice.
was the one where her voice was always in my head, even when she wasn't there,
Okay.
especially with growing up, and the values and things she taught me was always in my head. So I think I would have still did music, but I would never want to disappoint her. So it would have been kind of weird, because even when I was doing music, uh, things I was doing wasn't things she taught me.
In these neighborhoods outside of your rap ciphers.
Just
Okay.
the
So we'll let you do
language.
that.
The language
Okay.
and the approach was like outlandish. So I know, like, even I'll tell you a story. I'll tell you two stories.
Tell the stories.
And
We're here for it.
and in 1992, I was I was up to do the Apollo. In 1992, I was invited to do the Apollo. I was, of course, it was a paid gig. It was me. It was Naughty by Nature. It was Queen Latifah. It was Pete Rock and CL Smooth.
Okay.
The show was so incredible, the hype, that they did 3 shows. They would usually do a show at 8, maybe one at 11 or 12, but they did 8, 11, and 2. So they did 3 shows. And I remember telling my grandmother, and she was real extremely excited.
Nice.
And I told her, can't go.
Oh, she couldn't go to the 8? Oh my gosh.
Can't go. Told her, if I know you in the crowd, first of all, it's gonna be crowded. It's my grandmother. I'm just to notice you in the crowd and you there.
Oh.
And that's one. And 2, I could not be me at all. The cursing, the outlandish shit I'm about to pull off, can't do it if you're there. Can't be me. Because I know what it takes for me to be me, you wouldn't approve of. So,
she needed
shit I'm going to talk about, how I'm going to do it.
We needed grandma to have social media then.
Yeah. So, she was heartbroken, but the Apollo recorded the show, and I was able to leave the tape with her, and she checked out the tape.
The tape. Yeah.
So that was 1. 2, other story is, I wouldn't let her really hear my music. Not during the second album. Wouldn't do that. She took my tape, snuck it out in the room. They had like a job luncheon / picnic. Call herself, sneaking it out the room. And
she played it
at the job picnic. The dirty version.
Did she lose her job?
Man. All I remember her doing was coming home going, Robert, oh my gosh, such language. I was so embarrassed for her. Because, on that record, on the second album, I had a record called Fuck 'Em. And the hook alone was just like, fuck them niggas. Fuck them niggas. Take that, motherfucker. Fuck them niggas. Played that at the picnic. Fuck them niggas. I ain't bullshitting. So imagine she's at her job luncheon and she says, let me play my grandson's music.
No.
And all this type of outlandish shit is going on that I'm talking about. When she came back and told me, I felt I was so embarrassed for her.
Wow.
Because at least I would have got her something she could play. It might not have been the whole album, but something that was cool.
Yeah.
Man.
She could have. Now, who were your influences growing up? I mean, in terms of music, were there any that you listened to that kind of gave you insight, motivation, and what you were speaking to rapping?
Well, I think as rap evolved, it was more and more artists that I liked. So it might have started with Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five.
Sure.
Then it went to like Treacherous 3. Then it went to the Cold Crush. Then it went to Slick Rick and Dougie Fresh. Then it might have went to Rakim, KRS-One, Cool G Rap, Big Daddy Kane, because the game was evolving. So the simple rap, don't let me forget LL Cool J and Kumo D. You know, these are all artists that I thought were incredible.
Right.
But as hip hop evolved and the styles changed, I kind of evolved with the game. So I was rhyming one way, and then when I finally settled in, you got the Lord Finesse as you know him now. But the game was evolving, and that was the great part of, you know, the 80s and the 90s.
Absolutely. That was the great part. And we could just
constantly
put a period.
evolved. The bar was always being raised.
Yes.
And they didn't allow you to sound like anybody.
Right. Yeah.
You had to be different. Mm-hmm. And you know, people that were making records were talented. They were unique. They were gifted. It wasn't about views. It wasn't about comments. It wasn't about likes. You couldn't social media your way into the game. You had to be truly talented. And and you had to be talented enough where people wanted to invest their money in you. Mm-hmm. Because to make records costs money.
And I loved every one of them.
You couldn't go in the studio and smoke blunts for 5 hours and then decide to do a song.
Right, one song, not even the album.
Man, people were trying to do, I know I was trying to do 2-3 songs in a session.
Right. But that was dedication. That was the work ethic. Right. That was the understanding of what it was that you wanted to deliver. And I think that, and just so you know, that was the reason why I started the way that I did, because you do love champagne. You had the champagne thoughts, dreams, and ideas. And even from—
Well, no, I wouldn't go that far, right? Mm-hmm. I had the aspirations of being great.
Yes, well, there we go. Be associated with that. This is great.
I think when you get into the industry, mm-hmm. the industry starts to divert your mind. That you need these things to be associated with success.
If you put a value on it that way. I mean,
right. But the industry puts a value on that, because no matter how great you are, they always telling you you're not great enough. Whether it's putting out certain records, you go gold, now you got to go platinum. Go platinum, got to do double platinum. You do double platinum, we got to try to cross you over. And they take away your love and passion for what you're doing, because now it becomes about numbers and charts and different accolades versus the love of music.
The authenticity of that.
Right, exactly, mm-hmm. The authenticity. Mm-hmm.
Now you spoke about—
you fall out of love of what you love to do because they're making you do certain music to sell certain things. And I think once they get you out of your zone, then that's where you start on that hamster wheel.
You lose the art. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So with that, I will say I did hear you speak of, your circle and being able to have a circle that, your response was have a circle that will reach for the bill when it's time to pay the bill. That was the last that we were talking about something.
Well, that's now.
Yeah.
That you wanna surround yourself with people that inspire you. And like you said, people that you care for each other so much, you're fighting over the bill, you're fighting who's gonna pay. Instead of, people becoming accountants when the bill comes and want to divvy up the bill and tell you, and they know how to add up everything except tax and tips.
But it sounds like when you were growing up, you still had a group of good people around you, even with your grandmother. But when you were moving from neighborhood to neighborhood, as you were speaking about, and doing your ciphers and such, you still had those that were pushing you to keep going, to continue the greatness. And then obviously you were raising the bar, even in that environment. at that
Right.
time.
But the thing about it, I had great people around me, but we were all learning by trial by error. We didn't have a plan. Like certain rappers come in and they have a plan, they have a vision. Our vision was just doing incredible music.
That's all it takes.
Yes.
That's the art.
Yes, but
that's why it was easy.
They wasn't telling you how to transition
right.
into making the correct records or or transition into making the right commercial record or the right to do it in a way where you love, because even when it was time to shoot videos, we had to deal with video directors that have a vision for our music,
right,
but don't even know what our music very well entail.
Right.
So what they're shooting, it's like, that's not what my record is about. Sure. It was only until like the third album, The Awakening, is when I did everything. Mm-hmm. As far as being an artist, a producer, even writing a treatment for my videos on stuff that I'd be comfortable playing.
Right.
Because when you have a director trying to talk to you like a film director, in this scene, I need you to look angry, or this scene act hood, or this scene do this. It's not natural.
Right. Right. Now, in that time, was there a template? I mean, there was no real model to mimic or emulate at that time, right? So everyone was pretty much still just doing, right. They were just still laying their own foundation, which I think made it easier in that regard too, to be authentic, to still stay true to your art, as opposed to having to look at what the numbers would say from, previous artists that, maybe had the same type of work.
Yeah, but I'm thinking people became characters, and people wanted records with character, like characters. And I wasn't, to this day, I'm not good at being a character. What you see is what you get. What you hear is what you get. So I wasn't telling the incredible drug stories, and I wasn't telling certain stories, even though I was around it. It was just like, you couldn't talk about it if you ain't live it.
Right.
And they was very on to that. If you ain't live it, you get tested. Sure. So I know I was around the wolves, and there was certain things I did partake in, but I wasn't the fantasy dude. I wasn't telling these incredible fantasy stories. And I think a lot of that plays a role in being successful in rap. Hip hop is being great and being gifted at what you, as a lyricist, as a DJ, is being true to who you are. Yep. Rap is different. You do things, or you make certain records to sell records. So transitioning, I don't feel like it took me a while to get to transition. And I thought when I got down with Ice-T and I joined the Syndicate back in 91, I thought Ice-T would be around to mentor me into teaching me these certain things, because Ice-T is one of the smartest artists that I've known from the gate.
Okay.
And I've seen him transition from being an artist to an actor, to even having a rock band. And he's telling me how he's going to bring these things to fruition before they even came to fruition. So I felt being around a mentor like Ice-T would change my career, because he knew what I was about, and he would be able to translate it to a label on what to do to make me successful. And then to tell me what to do to be successful without getting so far out my element.
Okay.
And I think artists sometimes need that.
The direction.
When you're from the hood, or when you're from the street and you could rap, but you have to translate it into making great records. Sure. And some artists can rap, but you put them in a studio, they can't they can't translate it because now you got to rap to a beat. You got to have breath control. You got to have an idea behind what you're making, what type of records you're making, and why you making this record.
Right.
What makes this record great? Can people relate to this outside of the tri-state? It's so many different elements to making music that I had to learn by trial and error.
So what was your, what were you speaking to? What were your motivations, even from the aspect of your lyrics? What were you using for your writing?
I just know I was a great artist at putting words together, putting metaphors, compounds. That was my gift.
Okay.
Very extremely talented at that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, make it translate into records, took me a while to learn that. And I could say still learning, because now I travel the world. I'm an international artist. So when I'm performing on stage and when I'm even looking at other artists perform certain records and the response that the crowd gives the artist for these certain records, you take that lesson back. So now when you go in the studio, you're thinking about records that's going to make the crowd react in a certain way. Is this going to be an anthem? Is this record going to be so deep that it's going to touch home, where people around the world could really relate to this struggle, relate to this story that I'm telling? Is it going to be an energy record? Is this record going to be that core response record that's going to take me? People don't look at records that way. They just look at, I can rap and this beat is hot.
Right.
But when you look at great artists, let's take DMX, prayers go out to team DMX.
Absolutely.
But when you go stop, drop, shut them down, open up shop, whoa, well, it's a core response thing. So let's say you're a person in the crowd and that record come on, you don't even know the record. But you were hearing the whole crowd erupt and go with that song, you feel like you're missing out.
That's right. Right.
Oh shit, I gotta learn this shit.
You'll figure it out. I feel
like I'm by myself. It's the same thing. Hip hop hooray, ho, right. Hey, ho. It was certain core response records that were powerful.
Absolutely. I say that about Onyx also.
Yes. Slam. Do, 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 do. The energy of Onyx was just incredible.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that the record don't always have to be fast. You got some records that are kind of slow to mid-tempo. Let's take Annie Up.
Eric B. And he was that for the slower tempo stuff. And what you knew, I came in the door. I mean, you knew when it got ready for that.
That was a flow that I came in the door. I said it before. I never let the mic magnetize. It was a flow bouncing off a beat.
Yes, but you had to know it.
I think artists should understand the different levels. That's why when they ask me, is it a gap, a bridge gap, a gap in the two eras? And I just say no. I think it's a gap in education, because you can't begin to get into a field and not know the origin. If you know the origin, then there really isn't no gap. You understand why certain things happen the way certain things happen. But to just skip over the origin, or skip over the culture, or skip over what the trailblazers did before you got into it, two things are going to happen. You're not going to understand what you're getting into. You're going to put some misinformation out there, because you're going to think when you do become successful, you were the first to do a lot of certain things that's been done way before you.
Right. And pay that homage first. before.
Right,
Yeah, definitely so. And a lot of that is just, to me, I think it's still the core, the art, the talent, the desire that you all had to really make good music. And like you said, there was no biting, there was no duplicating anything. There was not just using it, the same kind of format and just letting it go. A
right,
lot of people now, could potentially be looking at it from a financial gain as opposed
right.
to, just
It ain't
the
nothing
art of
wrong
it.
with making the money, but what I also see is when artists do become successful and they do make money, but they're not going to be known in the records and the legacy part of it, then it becomes important because yeah, you got all this money, but the money is not what's going to be written in the books. It's going to be what you contributed to the game
Right. And will
that
we be
makes
hyping
you
that music like we're doing what we
remembered.
just did? Right. Right.
So
That
that's
will
when
be
it's like,
remembered.
yo, I'm just as great. I've done, yeah, you were successful, you made money, but the culture is a whole different,
Different.
it's a whole
Different.
different thing.
Yeah.
And what makes the 80s and the 90s great, because sometimes, this era think we're knocking them because they're doing a certain thing and we're just knocking them for knocking them. Or when we talk about the 80s and the 90s being great, it's like y'all over exaggerate the 80s and the 90s. I
It was
don't think
life.
it's exaggeration. You got to understand, we're from a world of limitation. We did some spectacular things with limited,
Absolutely.
access,
Yes.
with
Yes.
the limitations was surreal.
Compared to now, yes.
Limited sampling time, limited bit rate, uh, limited simplicity. They got it easy. For us to record a record, we had to get a 2-inch reel and put the music onto a reel. It was so many things. Some of the greatest analogies I can say, it's like taking a math test. Now, when we took a math test back in the days, they gave you the test, they gave you a scrap piece of paper, gave you a pencil. So you had the test, you got the scrap piece of paper, you got the pencil. So it was your job to show the work on a scrap piece of paper to how you got the answer on the math
Yes.
test. And if you didn't show that, then incomplete, failed you
I
because
love
you ain't
that.
show the work.
I like that.
But,
That's good.
we showed that we can get high grades, hundreds and 90s. Now, in this era, you get to take tests with calculators. How can you take a test with a calculator and can't get 100? See, we from a world where we didn't have certain things, so you was forced to use this all the time to get around the limitations. You had to think of a way to get around the limitations. So I see us doing some incredible things with so much less.
Resource.
And today they doing so much less with so much more.
So much more, but that's because of the individuals. That's because of society has created this limited situation where they feel like they can do less and get more. Obviously, so
You
social
had to pay
media
a lot of dues in so many different levels.
Yeah.
I mean, to this day, they'll never be able to understand what it is to have a black and white television with limited channels. So our appreciation
Wait,
for
don't forget the
technology,
foil and the antenna. Don't say you gotta add the other parts because you couldn't see that thing clear if you didn't have the foil.
our appreciation for technology is just, and we got this.
Yeah.
So what we
Yeah.
can do with the technology using this is just incredible.
Right.
The only thing I tell my peers and colleagues is don't let people put a expiration on your vision.
Nice.
That's what they have a problem with doing. Okay, y'all older dudes, y'all had your time already. It's our time now. No, you can't tear an ACL in music. Do music as long as you want to do music. Just do good music.
Just do good music.
You couldn't come outside and not be good in basketball because say we on the basketball court, we all playing basketball, good players out there. You couldn't come out there and say, all right, y'all been on the basketball court all day. It's our turn now.
Right.
First thing these dudes gonna do is take your basketball and throw that shit over the fence. Fuck out of here. And then, you're gonna go get your pops, you're gonna get your uncle, and then you're gonna say, why you launch my son ball over the fence? Because they jumped on the court saying, we played enough, it's their turn now.
Right.
And then the father, the uncle is gonna look at the child and say, well, little so-and-so, you gotta be good. When you're good, they're gonna let you play. Now, come on, let's go get ice cream. That's what it's going to be.
When you guys formed Digging in the Crates, what was the thought behind that? Did you organize the group, or whose idea was it to put all of those individuals together, or artists, not individuals, but just artists together?
Well, I think the concept came from Diamond and Show.
Okay.
The concept of digging in the crates, the concept of finding rare grooves and breaks and being the first or trying to be the first to use stuff that's never been used that's always been our kind of marquee, digging in the crates, because we was looking for rare and obscure things. So that credit definitely goes to Show and Diamond without a doubt. Me being raised around Show and Diamond, but I was out there in the game. I was just running across individuals that were truly gifted and telling them about D.I.T.C. and, kind of we going from there. It wasn't like Wu-Tang, where Wu-Tang was formed and then, the artists went separate. It was more like artists being artists and then trying to form a group, which I think is twice as hard, because everybody in Digging in the Crates had success in their own right with the first album. Whether it's Diamond with Stunts, Blunts, and Hip Hop, whether it's Show and AG with Runaway Slave and the Soul Clap EP that started, he sold that out the trunk of his car. Whether it's OC with Word Life, whether it's Fat Joe with Represent, whether it's Big L with Lifestyles of Poor and Dangerous, everybody had success in their own right. So when you put all the individuals together and we all these chefs in the kitchen trying to make one meal, it becomes very complicated because everybody is great at what they're doing in their own right. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have one person that kind of understood everybody and say, hey, you're great at this. It's like even with a team, you got to get players to play their part.
Right.
When we're up against this team, we're going to run this play. And in this play, these players shine. And then when we're up against this thing, then we're going to run this play and these players shine. These artists shine. So it was finding a balance, and that was hard where everybody's used to being a star of their own team. Mm. That's the most complicated thing about D.I.T.C. The best record I think we've done to date was Day One, because we went in there with just an idea and we just went and did it. It wasn't, is this going to get radio? Is this going to get this? It's just we came in as one and everybody played a certain part. Joe ain't rhyme on the record, did a hell of a hook. I personally didn't like the record until I heard Diamond and Big L on it. Mm-hmm. I hated the record. This shit is corny and doesn't do anything. But when I heard Diamond and Big L approach to the record, I go, oh, this shit sounded kind of hot. I need to get on this. Mm-hmm. And that's how it was natural. It was organic. And I think that's the greatest way to make records is even with artists sitting with producers, do it organically.
Absolutely.
Because me as a producer, if I have to work with an artist, if you say, send me some beats, this is me thinking what you might sound good on, or what I might think is hot. You might go, no, I'm not looking for that. But then again, if we sat down in the studio or you said, look, Ness, man, just play me a bunch of shit. Play me different shit. And I might play you something and you go, that's it. And in my mind, I go, I would have never put that on the CD. But that's the point of the communication. That's the point of sitting together and creating the magic together.
Yes.
And I don't think we do that these days. I just think you send somebody a beat via email. You don't even put it on CD no more. And then they pick something and then they put a verse to it. It's not being properly produced. You're giving somebody a beat tape. You're not producing a record. When you're producing somebody, you're sitting there, you putting input in a record, whether it's the hook, whether it's like, nah, you could say this verse better. Nah, maybe you take this verse and put this verse to the second. It's a combination of everything.
It's an education that you still need to have based on the formula to get it done. Now, I feel like, with COVID, and you tell me what you think about it, but with COVID, it allowed everyone to kind of settle down, pause, restructure, slow down. So now, as it relates to music and just exchanging and that kind of thing, do you see that there's a change in what you were saying as it relates to what they were sending you or what you all are doing with the recording and such? Is there a change now that we've all paused and had to kind of recalibrate, pivot a bit?
Well, I think two things. I think artists and people that are very mentally creative are flourishing. Mm-hmm. If you look at Swiss Beats and Timbaland, what they did with verses, fucking astonishing. Mm-hmm. That they said, you know what? Let's do verses. And they put verses together. And man, that's fucking genius.
Right.
Look at D.I.T.C, him upping his brand with DJing because of COVID. I think if you're truly a creative, you can find a way to do something that's totally amazing.
Sure.
I tell people all the time too, you learn what mattered and who mattered during this whole pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you haven't learned who and what matters during this whole time, you've been quarantined or in the crib, you just absolutely fucking lost if you just think the world is just going to get back to normal and you're going to go and we're going to party like it's 1999. This should have taught everybody some real things in life.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And you're DJing now, which is awesome. And you're using some of the concept that you just mentioned from, how Digging in the Crates came together. You all are using different fusions and such, and you're doing that, I noticed, with your DJing. So you mentioned at the beginning that DJing was your first kind of interest over the rapping. How are you doing with that now?
I think with DJing, I've always been DJing. I've been DJing in Japan. I've been DJing in Europe. I was just with New York. I just call New York the spoiled capital. So I rarely would do New York. I would do New York. I would pick my little places to DJ, and they've always been incredible. One of my favorite parties to play at is Soul in the Horn with D. Prosper and Natasha Diggs. Absolutely love playing Soul in the Horn because I get to become creative. Mm-hmm. Other spots were like a jukebox. Mm-hmm. You play the club, but they want you to play everything that's on the radio. I don't get to be me having to play what you listen to all day, every day.
Right. And who wants to come
when
to
I'm
the club
touring in Europe, when I'm touring in Japan, I get to bring finesse. I bring my flair. I bring my style. So I think DJing during the pandemic, people got to see what I truly do.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, I didn't know he was like that.
Yeah.
Because the first thing they go, okay, he's doing it now. He's the rapper that become DJ. And it's like, no, I've been doing this since fucking mid 80s. I'm just not a big spotlight person. Never been a spotlight person.
Yeah.
very laid back, very comfortable with who I am. And like I tell people
Hence
all
the
the time,
birds
that's
chirping in the back. Let me just stop you there. While we're talking to Lord Finesse, if you look him up, this is definitely a contrast because you hear the birds chirping in the background. So he's right. He's very laid back. But carry
yeah,
on.
I think when you laid back and you comfortable with who you are, you don't tend to feel like you need that spotlight.
Right. Well, that's comfortable in everything that you are. So once
Right.
you are that person and you understand who and what and where your superpowers come from, you don't have to search for it all over the place because it's not on the internet and it's not, in the next this and that. It's truly, within you and source.
But
So
the the industry in the world got people thinking if you choose to
twisted.
play the background, if you're
Yeah.
not in front of the camera, if you're not on television, if you're not all in social media, you ain't doing shit.
Yeah. Well, we have to understand
That's the
there's
mean
something different.
stereotype.
Yeah. We know.
And I just say, hey, if you believe that, go ahead and run
But
with it.
COVID
I'm
should have shown
comfortable.
us that that's not it. I think Tammy Roman spoke to that earlier today, that being in this COVID, time has taught many people that certain things, just especially from, the tangible aspects, those things, material things were not necessary to be able
Right.
to, just do what we're doing. And we're still surviving. We're still doing it. Thank goodness we're
Exactly.
healthy. We're having great conversations and, exchanging beautiful energy. So yeah, we just realized that, like she said, $300 dinners weren't necessary anymore. You can stay home and cook a nice meal and enjoy,
Oh shoot. COVID taught people a lot,
a
man.
lot,
COVID
right?
COVID taught you if you truly pick the right person to coexist with in a
Yeah,
relationship or
yeah.
live with, because you had to be around each other all
Every
the
day.
time.
Right,
You
right.
know, it taught women and it taught people who were side pieces,
Oh shoot.
you know,
What did the
because
side pieces do? Go ahead and say it. We got to know, what did they do?
now you ain't getting them phone calls. The person you thought you was with just be disappearing now, If you
Wow.
had your side pieces, you can only go to the mailbox so many times,
And you
But
probably weren't even trusting the side pieces because it was COVID. You didn't know. So you can't go get COVID and come back home. How's that going to work?
yeah, so I mean, like I said, I think the pandemic taught you who and
Absolutely.
what was important in life. I'm making a joke out of it. Some of it is true,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I just think, yeah, the pandemic
Change the game.
definitely changed the game.
Yes. It
It
changed the
changed
game.
the game. If you ain't inspired to really get your shit together during this whole shit, you just ain't never really gonna get
You
your
missed
shit
the
together.
mark. You just missed your time. And we've heard that if it comes around again and you were not prepared or did not get prepared this time for whatever is there to come, shame on you. It's just one of those things. Now, are you going to get the vaccination?
Um,
Dun,
nah.
dun, dun, dun. No? Okay.
I mean, my take on it is so many different takes on it. And I get into debates with people because they say I'm spreading information. You're misleading people like you that make people not want to get the vaccine. First of all, I caught COVID back in late
Did you?
September.
In September?
Late September,
Okay.
going
All right.
into October.
Wow.
So I know what it's like to be put
Wow.
put down for a while.
Hmm.
But my thing is, it's a couple of things here. When COVID happened, I've just never seen one doctor or scientist. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've never seen one doctor or scientist say, "Hey, we don't have the vaccine yet, but let's build your immune system. Take some vitamin C, take some vitamin D, some zinc, some echinacea, some sea moss, some elderberry. they never told people how to build your immune system.
Well,
Everything was
medicine
like,
is for money. Medicine is money. And then
right,
holistic
like,
is holistic. And that was the family and friends that shared that whole
right.
ensemble that
So
you mentioned.
how can you watch so many people die or so many people go through this and you have no good advice for them except the vaccine? Except the vaccine. They ain't saying to do these things. It's like, well, we should have the vaccine soon.
Well, you do
That's
know
one.
you do know that we were under a different sailing ship. Let's say it that
I
way.
mean, I understand that too. And that's even more disappointing that you knew
Lives
this
were
was
cost.
amongst us back in February and
Absolutely.
you let people go out there just living life knowing that this type of thing is amongst us.
Reckless. And you know what? I really, from things that I've looked at, even like what you said about you all touring early and such, when I spoke with Fatman Scoop last year, I noticed that when I was looking at some of his videos, people in Japan, I believe it was actually, were wearing masks in November. Now we're saying
No, but
February,
Japan
we
has
learned of
been
it.
wearing masks since we was out there in like the 90s. So
Okay. Well, they had
they've
them on.
always been very protective
Yeah.
of,
Yeah.
germs and
Yeah.
certain things.
So for him to say, certain things, where, what, where, how, even that, we didn't know about it until February, I do believe that there was traces of things that were coming along early on. And it could have been very, November, December of 19, where we
Right.
really would have been ahead of the game, to not
Then
have that.
you're allowing these pharmaceutical companies to create and manufacture these vaccines, but take no liability if somebody gets sick or somebody have side effects or if they actually die. These
Well,
pharmaceutical companies hold no liabilities. They say, yes, vaccine court. Vaccine court only counts for 1% that might go to trial. 1%. So when you're looking at manufacturers that can create something and have no liability, I can't go with you injecting something in my body. And when I talk about it, I tell people if they want to get it, get it. You have your reasons, I have mine. I'm not telling you not to do it. I'm just telling you I'm not doing it for my reasons. And whatever your thing is for doing it, don't project that on me. This shit like religion now.
yeah.
Well, you
And
should
I
do
think that it's
this and
just more so for a safety. And I will say that I have it and I've gotten both of them. The first one was smooth sailing. The second one, I will say I had about a 12-hour kind of situation going on with some side effects, but I'm here, I'm fine now, thank God.
right.
And I was not, I did not have the COVID. I think that I might have had maybe something of it, because there's just something
Right.
floating around. But two of the families that I know had gotten it right before I went to get the vaccination. I hadn't really planned to do it at the time, but that weekend before, which one family, at least the child of the family, you would know, but got COVID. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I've got to go and, get this vaccination. And I was actually able just to get to my side of the family just this week because they've been, as really
Right.
sick.
Like I said, if you have family members, if you have elderly people and you feel that's what you want to do, you have all the right. You have the reason. Me, the last test I've taken was like maybe last month. And it shows that my body has the antibodies. So with that being said, if my body naturally produced the antibodies, I don't know what they're injecting people with and what they're trying to do. But when I'm listening, I'm listening to what's been told, and then I'm listening to what's going on.
But now, do you have the
So
antibody because you've already had it?
yes.
Yes. Okay. Well then.
So when they were saying they was coming with the vaccine was supposed to knock it out. That's what they were saying. Now it's like, well, the vaccine doesn't really knock it out. What it does is if you get it, you won't have the severe symptoms. Then it went from 1 shot to 2 shots. Then it went, hey, we're going to do this vaccine passport. And then that makes me think like, well, how long is this shit going to go on? So if you're doing a passport, anybody that has a passport, it's a booklet that requires stamps. And I'm quite sure they're not making a passport just for 1 stamp.
It's a card that we have right now. So just like you said, you going abroad to perform, to DJ, whatever it is that you plan to do, that's what's going to be shown, is that card to say you've been vaccinated, to be able to.
I would rather, they said you could take the test to show that you don't have COVID and you could still travel abroad. I'll take the test.
But do you have to quarantine even when you get there, though? Because that was another requirement at first.
Well, it depends where you go.
See, that's going to slow you down.
But I just think it's just too much information coming from too many different sources. And none of it is truly everybody speaking in one voice, except for them promoting the vaccine. But my takeaway from it is they're not being transparent. They're telling you vaccine, 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 vaccine. But when people are catching these side effects, when certain things are happening, they're suppressing that part. So they want to vaccine, vaccine, vaccine. But when something happens, you rarely hear about it because they don't want you to know about it. And then when you do have doctors and scientists that are online telling you their knowledge about scientists and doctors, they're stripping the information from offline and they calling it misleading. And it's like, nah, you can't just, it's like they taking away the First Amendment. You just putting out there what you want to be out there, and you stripping away any other questions and any other answers that's out there. And when certain scientists are faced with tough questions, they say, we don't know, we're not there yet. Oh, we're still figuring it out. But you could tell us it's another strain in Brazil, it's one in the UK, the surge is going to happen in July. It's like, how do you know all these things?
Well, I think that what happened was the source in which, or the way that we were introduced to this entire situation was a negative sense. So it brought in, a negativity before we even got started. We weren't introduced to it the proper way. And so it gave people already the side eye. And then even going through it, and it was so detrimental and so many uncertainties and not enough information, again, from the sailing ship, we just were left to not know. And then
when you talk about certain things that pharmaceutical companies did with autism, when you talk about certain things, Tuskegee experiments, they want to just wipe that away. And it's different now. How?
Yeah, and we're more educated now, so we know that it's definitely different. And I think that, to that point, I think what's going to happen is, just like we have to get the measles and the mumps and all of that before we started school, I think that's going to be one of the now required vaccinations.
But then you have somebody, once you said we was talking about money, you have a billionaire like Bill Gates that believes in depopulation. Now, when you're talking about depopulation, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that getting rid of people? Depopulation? Where are these people going? You're going to put them on another planet? What do you mean by you believe in depopulation? But all of a sudden now, I'm going to create a vaccine that's going to save everybody. I believe in depopulation, but I believe we got to save people now. Certain things, common sense, it just don't add up. And like I said, my thing is just that a lot of things that's there or was said just doesn't add up in my mind. And when you ask for these answers, you can't get a straight answer. So it's just like, you know what? I'll wait on the fence and watch.
And the
Like I
last thing
said,
that
I'm
I
not
say about
telling
it,
nobody to do anything. If you want to do it, do it. If you don't, then don't. But you ain't gonna hear it out of my mouth. I'm just talking about my point of view on why I look at things the way I look at things.
right? And just to that point, I would say if you have a source that you pray to and you take time to understand and what that is speaking to, I would defer to it before any of the technology, before anyone has a conversation with me, and understanding what you're being told from your source, wherever you believe, whatever you believe, and then let that guide you outside of your own intuitions in terms of what is best for you, what is best for your family and those folks around you. And if those things align, source with your alignment, then
Right.
you do
Like you
whatever is
said,
best.
it's you got family or you got people you trust, then that's one thing. But I just don't trust the media and I don't trust television because that's all controlled. And I know I'm not a conspiracy theory, person that's into conspiracy theory. A lot of this stuff just is not adding up. And until I'm comfortable, then I'm not taking it. That's just case closed.
That is
Like I
Lord
said,
Finesse
I'm not
way.
telling people what to do. And
Right.
I'm not really preaching like religion. This is just my observation of what I've seen
Yes.
and what's been said to me via television, via doctors, via media, via president. None of this stuff is adding up.
Right. Lord Finesse, thank you so much for joining Champagne and Conversations. Please share your social media information. Guys, he's on live. He gives all of this information, all of this love, all of this concept and thoughts. Usually every morning, it looks like you've been on. So please share your social media where they can find you.
Well, you can find me at everything is Lord Finesse D.I.T.C. If you want to go to my website, it's lordfinesseditc.com, www.lordfinesseditc.com. Instagram is Lord Finesse DITC. Twitch is Lord Finesse DITC. Twitter is Lord Finesse DITC. Facebook is Lord Finesse DITC. So you can find me on all these different platforms. As far as what she's talking about on Instagram, the walks, I walk every morning. I walk 2 miles, and I got my followers that tune in, and we just chop it up. Current events, real life shit, and I promote self-empowerment because I believe everything starts with you. I believe that to get anybody believe in you, you have to believe in yourself. So a lot of things we talk about on the live is mainly self.
Mhm.
It's sometimes it's humorous, sometimes it's funny, sometimes it's personal. Sometimes we talk about people going through their problems, people fighting their demons. It's just organically. It's not done up in a superficial way, but it's done up naturally. And I'm showing people know I've been walking since like August. So they see my face go from big fat to me toning up and they're going, wow. But I'm showing you a process. I'm not just popping up one day skinny.
Right.
People watch me every
You're
day.
doing
I'm
the
not
work.
done up. I throw my gear on.
Yes.
And I go for my walk. So it ain't about being dressed up. No time is the right time. It's just getting out and doing it. And I'm just showing people what I'm doing and hoping that either the words or just the progress in the process inspire people. That's what it's about for
Absolutely.
me.
That's what's about. And tomorrow on Twitch, the West Wing.
Oh, yeah. Live and direct from the West Wing tomorrow.
Yes.
It's called The Art of Digging. It's the elements and ingredients. So as a DJ, I like to do different things. We did Neo Soul session on Tuesday. That was incredible. I did a Biggie tribute that was mean. Tomorrow is the Art of Digging, elements and ingredients. And what that is I'm playing samples and certain things that your favorite songs that use these samples to create some of the greatest hits and classics. And it's breaks, it's funk, it's soul. And then I'll
Nice.
come back on Saturday. We do Saturday brunch starting at 9 here on the West Coast, 12 on the East Coast. So the Art of Digging will be tomorrow at 5 o'clock East Coast time,
Okay.
2 p.m. here West Coast. Saturday brunch is always 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Western. Come vibe out with me. That's Twitch. If you don't got Twitch, please get a Twitch platform. And
so you don't get cut off because you might.
Yeah. Come join the West Wing Cabinet. You know,
Yes.
we in here. It's all love. We promote nothing but positivity. Announce yourself. We welcome you. It's that simple.
Lord Finesse, thank you so much for joining Champagne and Conversations. We thank you for your time. We appreciate all of the amazing information and stories that you've shared with us, and we wish you the best, the blessings, and we look forward to seeing or hearing new music from you soon.
Yes, indeed, indeed, indeed.
All right.
Have a blessed day.
You too. Thank you.